Hello and welcome to the Your Financial Planning Maestro podcast. This podcast is aimed at financial advice professionals all around the world, but particularly in the UK, where we follow the journey of many hundreds of individual paraplanners, investment managers and financial advisors in becoming financial planning professionals and gaining their international certified financial planner license. We will be talking to a number of individuals about their journey to become CFP professionals and touching on other aspects of the profession along the way. I hope that you enjoy our podcast. Hello and welcome. I'm Jackie Lockie, your financial planning maestro. And in today's podcast, I have a very special guest who has recently become a certified financial planner professional. And that is Gregor Munro, who is a director and financial planner at Sunflower Financial Planning. Hello, Gregor. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jackie. Thanks for having me.
So we are going to talk about your journey through to CFP. But before we get into all of that, just give us a quick whirlwind visit on how you got into the financial planning profession.
Yeah. After leaving school, I kind of, like a lot of people, fell into it, worked for leading life and pension businesses. I got good advice there actually from a chap saying, why don't you try and work in the different areas before you decide what it is you want to do? And as part of that journey, I ended up working for an independent financial advisor, just in the office, looking after everything, not giving advice, but really getting under the bonnet of a business whilst I was there. I then got asked to go to a big law firm actually, which we didn't quite realise at the time what I was getting into, but went there as a paraplanner and then became an authorised paraplanner, which was kind of early days for those roles. And one of the lawyers was leaving to set up another firm and asked me to go there and help set up financial planning there from scratch, so getting a law firm authorised, which was interesting. And then they went to an accountancy firm. So yeah, it was kind of a journey across the different areas: life, pensions and investments, then paraplanning, then on to advice. I've kind of gone through, I guess, the different disciplines over the years.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's quite a journey and great experience, I think,
Yeah.
Being a financial planner now, having gone through those steps, isn't it? Because you're not just kind of doing the client facing stuff, you know how to create the financial plans. And I know from our conversations, you're a bit of a whiz on the Excel spreadsheets, aren't you?
No, don't know about that. I like, I think it's a blessing and a curse in terms of having done the different jobs, because you can, I'm not saying you're great at all of them, but you can do them. Whereas some people get trained to be the striker, and stick the ball in the net and be the planner. Whereas I quite like doing the research and things like that. So now I've got my own business. It's something that, I was really conscious that I wanted to do the jobs that I enjoy, and I just understand that maybe you might not be the most economical sometimes, that you're doing jobs that aren't the most efficient, but actually if you like doing them, at the end of the day, it's your business, you can decide that's what you want to do. So understanding different roles it enables me to be a one-man band effectively,
Yes, absolutely, because you're kind of self-sufficient, aren't you?
To a point.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you find out about the CFP and why did you undertake the certification?
So Sunflower is an appointed rep at St James's Place, and I guess I'm about 7 years into it now, and when I'd kind of gone in and out of love with exams, and when I was back in the day when I was at Turkey Cornwall, the law firm I worked at, this CFP wasn't really, I think it was IFP at the time, and so I came over there. But anyway, I did G10 and tax and trust and all that kind of stuff 20 odd years ago. So I kind of lost my track a wee bit with exams, life, business getting in the way, getting a bit disillusioned with it, to be honest, as well, a wee bit in terms of how I felt things were going, with it almost like trying to trip you up with questions. And when I was speaking to the people within SJP about, well, I'd quite liked at some point, I'm getting older now, and before I hang my boots, I would quite like to get level 7. And they just kind of looked at, well, where are you just now? What qualifications do you have? What could you do? And they suggested to me, have you thought about going down this route in CISI, CFP, things like that? And when I looked at it, it just struck a chord. A normal exam, so to speak, for the level 6, and then the case study. So it just appealed to me, really.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you decided to embark on that, you took the level 6 exam first, did you?
Yeah,
And what was your approach to prepare for that? How did you get on with that?
I'd say it was really, it was really like a normal exam in the sense that, but it was examining me or us on the job that we do. So when I was looking at the past papers, just reading up, taking it to another level as well, rather than uh, being able to expand on the answers and sometimes the things that are in your head, trying to make sure you get them down onto paper, but just being really aware of the in-depth knowledge of the thing that you do day to day,
Mm.
and sometimes even like the usual and the most current stuff that's on the go regulatory wise, making sure you're reading up on uh, what's coming out from the regulator at the time. So you could, if I remember one of the questions cropped up, it was a recent change to legislation. So just being aware of current events and also having a really good detailed knowledge of your job, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And so you passed that with flying colours, obviously. And then did you go straight on to the level 7, or did you have a little pause and a little break, tea and a cup of tea somewhere?
Oh yeah, no, once I got that, pleasantly surprised because I had quite a long break between exams. No, it was always a plan. Part of the attraction for going down this route at SUV kind of said, well, actually, if it works out well, it's a quicker way to get to level 7 than if I'd stayed in the PFS route, and then every 6 months it was going to be another 2.5, 3 years of
Mm,
of doing
yes.
things. So no, I got into it and then looked at the options and then enrolled on a course. And that's going back, I guess, a question thinking about, well, I'd also got not to yourself, as a tutor help on the level 6 exam, and then when we came to level 7, SGP again, they were really great with their kind of the back office support in terms of specific department that deals with exams and just what's out there, who's there, and then
Yep.
obviously put me in touch with yourselves.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. And the rest is, they say, is history. But anyway,
Mm.
let's talk about the history. So
Mm.
you got your level 7 case study. Tell us a little bit about what your initial approach was to that case study.
Yeah, so read the case study with interest because that was the part that appealed to me. That it was kind of like without seeing the clients, it was like hopefully like your notes from a meeting kind of thing.
Yeah.
And literally red penning or yellow highlighting the bits that you thought were relevant or interesting, or maybe I need to know more about this, or that contradicts this. And then I'd signed up with yourself to kind of go through the package of understanding what I needed to do, because I got the message pretty quickly that we're trying to do level 7 just off your own back, or what you thought you needed to do wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So then listen, the way it was set up with the videos and sticking to the plan of only watch the bits you need to watch, and don't try and jump ahead, and don't try and jump to answers too quickly. So yeah, it was really spending time to get under the skin of the case study and just think about these people as if they were real people, and what would be the questions you'd have, and then start to work through your sort of video tutorials, and then we also have our catch ups along the way.
And are you the kind of person who like to work in chunks of time? So have a morning off or something to work on this case study? Or did you prefer to do it kind of, an hour outside work time?
So the latter I couldn't really do. Just at the time, 3 kids under 8, and dog, as we've talked about, and it's my own business. So what I did was, maybe it was quite extreme, but I'm not maybe the sharpest tool in the box. I felt like when I realised what was involved, really had to spend a lot of time on it, and I effectively shut Sunflower for a few months. I only dealt with work that I had to deal with, so ongoing servicing and anything that was like absolutely essential. And I just really spent a lot of time coming into the office, away from home, and just working on it during working hours. And my wife was great, obviously, just manning the fort with the kids. And but yeah, I kind of, once I get into something, I kind of get into it.
Yes.
But it just kind of replaced work, I say.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that in order to get through it, I mean, you know, it is a quicker route, but essentially it's still a huge time commitment, isn't it? So something not to be, you know, and taken lightly. And like you say, you know, going to work, but not working on work stuff, working on your case study. So how what specific areas of the case study did you find the most challenging? Because I know that over the months we've had some really interesting conversations going down lots of rabbit holes, haven't we?
Yeah. Well, again, well, right at the very start, it was, I think the first one was, I think you were appalled at me for spending 30 hours on a single cell on a spreadsheet because I couldn't get it to work. And
Yeah,
it turned out we had a week, actually, in some ways, it kind of it weirdly gave me confidence actually, because I kind of we ended up finding out there was a wee kink in the examination paper, and I'd spent ages going, well, I can't get my numbers to match the starting point, and if we can't get the first line of the spreadsheets to work, then where do we go from here? And that really
yeah,
frustrated me.
yeah,
So getting the working on the spreadsheets, you know, became apparently quickly. I'm a big Voyant fan, and I've used it for quite a long time. I think I'm okay at it. And I remember paraphrases from you saying, that's fine, you can try it, but I don't think anybody's ever passed it using external software. So I'm like, okay,
yes,
I'll listen to that. So just watching your videos and really trying to understand how we're going to create the spreadsheets and the if statements, the formulas, which was really challenging.
mm,
But because you did the videos, you could literally stop and pause and look at what you were typing, and then try and get your head around it, and doing your own external reading and research and YouTube and things like that, just saying like how, again, wanting to be self-sufficient and not just effectively copying what somebody's doing, but understand how it works.
yeah,
So yeah, the engine, building the engine was, yeah,
yeah,
I
tricky
keep
bit.
saying it hard. I'd say it's one of the hardest. It is the hardest academic thing I've ever done.
Yeah, yeah. And along the way, it wasn't just the building it and thinking that bit through, but it was all the extras that were coming out of the case study then as well, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah,
well,
yeah,
should I do that or should I do this?
yeah,
And
yeah,
all of those kind of
yeah. So once you so getting to the point where, like you said, you need to have an engine. You need to build a calculator that can help kind of paint a picture. The cash flow model, you're building your own cash flow model from the ground up, and like I do with Voyant, helping that, like using that as a tool to give you ideas as the advisor as to, well, what if I do this? So I have to do that with clients. You're trying to say, well, what if I did this? How would that look? How would that work before you speak to the client? I can keep saying to people, it's a bit of a blend of an art and a science.
yeah,
Numbers help. They can also give you more clarity and answers as well. So
yeah,
yeah, when you're looking at things like, you know, do you do drawdown or do you buy an annuity, and then I think there's some things, oh, annuity will be easier in terms of on the spreadsheets, but not always the case. And it's still, at the end of the day, you're trying to write a report to somebody and you're trying to give them advice. So would it be the advice you'd be giving a person, not just would it be the advice that you
mm,
would give to try and get through the exam?
yeah,
And the things like I kind of had my challenges. My big one was things like the taxation of unwrapped investments and
yeah.
how I dealt with that, and that ended up being, you know, a stumbling block that I had to go back and fix.
Mm. Composite rates of return, does that give you a cold sweat or sleepless nights?
Oh, well, again, no, it was an assumption about I hadn't explored, not when I think when we looked at it all, it was I'd actually done the work and I'd got all the stuff in the assumption section. It was I hadn't made it clear to the examiner how I'd got to my answers on my spreadsheets.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah,
going, and then it was going back and revisiting that and saying, right, so when you're actually writing the report, almost signposting, you know, how have I got to that number? Where's that come from?
yeah,
So yeah, It was, yeah. I mean, that the rework part in the second submission, that it was, I found that pretty painful. But it was more, I think, you just wanted to never see the thing again, and you're opening it back up and having to deal with it again.
Yes. It's like being transported back in time, isn't it? Back to the pain of doing the first submission, only it's worse because you're not quite sure what you have to change for the second one.
Yeah, well, that's what was great with something like yourself. Actually, when you go through there was areas of the first submission that I was surprised, and I felt like I'd done really well, and there was a couple of areas that needed work. And okay, but I guess my initial reaction compared to you doing the job of what I would like to do with a client is you're sometimes stopping them overreacting, and you're stopping them from doing too much or fiddling. You're saying, no, actually, a lot of this will be addressed from one area, and it'll ripple through all the different things. But I did notice when I was reworking it that I felt like I'd made an error, and I'd made an error that hadn't been picked up in the first submission. Or maybe it hadn't been picked up because they just had said, well, we can't see you're getting to that figure, so we're not delving into it even anymore. So I had ended up having two versions of my second submission, thinking, well, if I can't get to the finishing line and it's done properly, then I'll have to just go with something that's not perfect, but maybe I get through. And that was, yeah, but that was a choice. I guess you had to. I was more the view of once I realised that I'd made a mistake that hadn't been, officially identified in the first submission. I thought, well, I still need to fix that because what if they do pick it up in the second one?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so you are a real detail man, aren't you? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, kind of. It's like it's your strength and a weakness. Yeah.
And so going through that second submission, finding that error, I think you automatically, how did you feel when you read the feedback? Did you think the feedback was fair, or with your detail head on, did you kind of start going down those rabbit holes, going, I don't think this is entirely fair?
No, I thought it was. I guess it's not until it's like any job. If somebody sat on your shoulder and watched you do your job, they would always make critiques of what you do and how you do it.
Yeah.
And I think what it did was when you're looking at and the way the feedback's given in that kind of Excel spreadsheet format as well, going back, you could literally work your way through it and then try and find the bit that they're talking about. And I'd say there was one or two bits where I would say, oh, I could argue that. But in the vast majority of cases, I thought, well, it's either I've not made it clear enough to avoid this problem, or actually, you know what, crikey, yeah, I've kind of wood for the trees kind of thing. That is
Yeah.
something that I knew, I talked about, I thought about, I could see notes on it, but it's not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought it was pretty fair, and you go through the initial like everything. Like when a client says they don't want to work with you, and you deal with the rejection, and then you say, right, how do we deal with this? But I think having that consultation with you afterwards, where I'm pretty down, but I kind of I thought based just on probabilities that not many people get through it the first time. So I was kind of thinking that might, but if I can get close, and it's not too much of a disaster.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and
you were close. You were
yeah,
close.
yeah, that's the thing. That was a bit. I was probably closer, so close that it annoyed me. I
Yeah.
thought I'd rather somehow be be further away. But
And there's a few people who've said to me, I've never been so happy to fail an assessment, which you can kind of understand because you're so close to passing and knowing that, in so many cases, there's not much to do to fix it to get across the line. So, yes, it's a bit frustrating if you kind of think, oh, I just could have done that extra little push and passed on your first submission. But actually, as we said on the course right at the start, we're giving it all, aren't we, on our first submission? So if we can get a gnat's whisker away, even if we don't pass on our first submission, then if we can get so close, then that means, hopefully the stress is relieved, and it makes it, relatively easy to pass on that second submission.
yeah, well, I think I would say I emptied the tank in the first submission. Like I said, I did a 24-hour, 25. I was in the office for 25 hours the day before I left for my holiday. That was bad planning for my part, but I ended up losing, say, a week. I was a week short, which
Yeah.
maybe with hindsight would have got me through first time.
Yeah.
And I knew it was coming, so it wasn't a case of me realising, and then defer. It was like right from the start, I'd kind of booked my summer holidays before I entered the level 7 exam, And then it was just the time where I thought in my head, well, I'll be okay, I can make sure I can get it done, and we've got that week. I'll lose a week, but okay, I can make that work. But that week became pretty important.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
And so, do you have a feeling of roughly how many hours it took you to complete the whole thing, including all your rabbit holes,
hundreds and hundreds
counselling
and hundreds.
sessions?
I've sat. I mean, that's 500. And everything.
Yeah.
And people look at me and think you're exaggerating, but I'm not. I mean, like I said, I genuinely, I'm a bit thick. That's one problem. Two, I had to shut the business. I was just thinking, well, I'm in the office 5 days a week, pretty much, and the majority of that time was working on this thing, and that happened for a few months. And then when I did the resubmission, that also I took way longer than you probably thought I should. But that was because I was trying to fix something that I'd realised an error that wasn't picked up. So yeah, I'd say it's going to probably be a good 500 hours, which again, like linking back to what you mentioned earlier, this isn't for everybody. There's got to be somebody from SGP. I got asked to speak to a couple of people in SGP about it, and it wasn't about saying it wasn't a good exam. It was a good exam, but you've got to have the. I mean, I don't know how people could work during the day and then go home at night and then say start working on it at 8, 9 o'clock at night. I personally, I couldn't have done that.
No.
It wouldn't have been enough time for me, but it was all consuming.
Yeah, yeah. And looking back now, thank goodness, he says, congratulations on passing and congratulations on becoming a CFP professional. Looking back, has it changed your thought process or how you approach and give financial planning advice moving forward, do you think?
A little bit, but I don't mean that. No, it wasn't. It was a really, I said it was a seminal moment for me in terms of learning and the act of going through that type of exam. But because of where I was in my career and how I gave advice, so I believe very much in the plan. I think the plan is the most crucial thing, and let the advice stem from that. So I think what it did was it kind of almost reinforced my belief system and how I was trying to my wee business, how I'm trying to run that, and I'm getting feedback from clients that they maybe didn't think they were getting into it at the start, but when you start focusing on the plan and letting the plan dominate the discussions, the solutions kind of present themselves, and you narrow the focus that way. So that was good. It kind of said, well, this is the right exam for me because it's what I believe in. I guess what it did do was highlight again. I thought I was quite. I used to talk to clients about assumptions, but then the work that we did at the start before we even got into doing all the Excel spreadsheet, it was all about assumptions. So the quality of the plan was all about your assumptions and where they came from and how you justified them.
Yeah.
And I think if you're a bit older, that's maybe a bit easier because you're a bit, I don't know, you've been through it a few times and you're more confident to say, well, I found it here and that's where I got it from, or I'm using these figures and that's what it means. But I think if you're maybe, if you're doing exams and you're out of uni and things like that, and you've not got the financial planning experience, that can be quite a daunting thing. And that's the feedback I get from some people that do it. They just kind of say, well, where'd you get that from? And how did you come up with that number? And there's a lot of information out there. It's just identifying it, and then is it relevant? Is it accurate? Can you justify it? Is it reasonable? So I think the importance of the assumptions that you make and getting the clients really on board with that as well, and explaining that to them, because I always say to clients, the plan's wrong the minute you've done it.
Yeah.
But what you're trying to do is get the things that you do know right, and then agree that on the assumptions you make that they're not going to fundamentally derail what you're doing.
Yes, and I think the assumptions, they kind of give you the rails to run on, don't you?
Yeah, you've got the kind of there's a core ones, but I think it's like when you start coming up with your solutions. I guess that's what I mean. When you're starting to come up with your solutions for plans and how you do it, and certainly in my one, which maybe was part of my problem, when I was looking at unwrapped investments and then how I kind of chose to combine Mr. and Mrs. because they were broadly similar in terms of income tax and stuff like that down the line. I thought, well, I can prorata the investments and then how you get the net return and stuff. I think the assumptions you make both as an advisor when you're trying to do the exam, but also the assumptions that you make to then build the plan. You see what I mean?
Yes, yes. And do you think that going through the CFP, some people have said to me that it gives them that foresight to be able to have conversations of kind of impending disasters? You can see them coming a little bit further down the track than you perhaps otherwise would have done. And it gives you that opportunity to have those kind of conversations a little bit earlier with clients than you otherwise would have done.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I think, like I said, I've been a big, really kind of bit of a religious cult. I've been a big thing about put the plan first, and a lot of clients don't. We don't want to think about the bad stuff. So I'm a big behavioural finance person. I talk in the first meeting, talk about why to clients. Why are we here? You know, in terms of not the big kind of life question, more why have you come through my door? Why have you got in touch? And it's not because you want a pension or you want life insurance. It's the thing behind that.
Yeah.
And it can sometimes be a bit challenging because people don't like maybe acknowledging that maybe somebody in their family's ill and it's made them think, well, what if that happens to them?
Yes.
You know, so the tools that we use, the pensions, the ISAs, the life insurance, they're the tools. You know, they're the things we use to fix problems. And it's why somebody's seeking out advice. So to try and get that, sometimes maybe people don't realise. Sometimes it's really deep in their subconscious as to why they're getting in touch with you. But or they've maybe got a specific issue that they think is the most important thing to them. But if you say to them, right, what if you don't? What if you stop earning any money? Well, what do you mean? What if you're ill for a period of time? I don't know, and you can like literally hit a button on a system and strip out all the income. Well, there you go. That's a problem, is it not? Yeah, but I'm here to talk about my pension. Well, your pension's secondary if you can't pay for it, isn't it? So,
yes.
I've not personally had a problem with trying to gently push people into corners that they don't like, but you have to accept that, you know, as humans, we don't like thinking, I guess, about negative things. We don't like being uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're nearly at the end of our interview today now, Gregor, and I just wanted to ask you if you had any tips that you could share with people who are about to embark on their journey to become a certified financial planner.
Work with a tutor or a coach, whatever you want to yourself. You know, don't just think you can do it yourself, because nobody I've spoken to that I don't think any of that doesn't work. And even though people will put a lot of time and effort into it, you know, it's just not. It doesn't seem to work. It's a very focused way of, you know, the CFP want you to work a very specific way, and you've got to understand that. Otherwise, you're just going off down the wrong path, and you're wasting a lot of time and money and effort. So definitely do work with somebody like yourself. Have a really good understanding of Excel. It does help. You know, if you really know it well, and you know the if statements and things like that, and just if you think you're okay at it, just again don't assume that you're okay at it. Just check and look at it and try and improve your knowledge there, because down the line there's so much in the building of those spreadsheets that I can still use now in terms of when you're trying to figure out if something's assured, and you know what's the impact of that going to be if you take out that sum of money, rather than just relying on a computer program to spout the number out at the back end. You can see where it came from. And as you're working, try and be really organised. I learned as much, and I did it initially. I thought I did, but the level of reading that you're doing and the thoughts that you have, scary ones or not, somewhere where you got to keep them somewhere, and somewhere that you can find easily and search, and whatever that works, however that works for you. But you almost have to have like a working pad, or I had a spreadsheet, and within my spreadsheet I had a tab that was just all my jibber jabber. You know, that there was my thing. Well, I was always challenging myself, and and I had on my phone, whenever I was waking up during the night in a cold sweat, I would write a note to myself about what to check the next day.
Yeah.
And because that happens as well, which is so yeah, finding a place, having a place that you can go to and keep your notes, and empty your thoughts into there, so then when you're working through it, you can figure out and keep a note and keep a track of what you've done, so that when you're building your assumptions, you can see where that's come from, because there's nothing worse than thinking you've got a cracking bit of data and then not being able to find it again.
Yes. Absolutely. Completely agree. Gregor, thank you so much for allowing us to interview you today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations again on becoming a CFP professional and gaining that level 7 qualification. And we hope that all of our listeners, I'm sure they're going to eat up this interview and take lots of tips and advice away from it. So thanks very much again for joining me.
No problem, Jackie, and thanks again for your help.
It's really interesting, isn't it, to listen to different people who have different experiences of gaining their certified financial planner certification, or maybe developing the financial planning profession at large. If you know anybody who you think might be interested in listening to any of these podcasts, then please do pass on our details. That's it for me. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. See you again soon. Bye for now.